Welcome to the We Watch This Movie podcast, a podcast where we sit down and dissect the latest and greatest in film. I'm Dan the Nolan connoisseur, joined by Jackson the Lynch fan, the Lynch man, with over how many films on his watch list we have lost count. Jackson, how you doing?
Justin Dan, never been better.
As you can tell, audience, our lovely listeners, today we'll be taking a look at Capone. Tom Hardy in Capone. Josh Trank's return to form, or is it A Nightmare on Elm Street? We'll find out very shortly, but I'm very excited to deep dive into this one, Jackson, that's for sure. It's a divisive film, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to make for some interesting conversation.
What have you been up to outside of the podcast this week?
I've been working on @MarshallOnFilm, followed by an underscore, available on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, Letterboxd. I've been more active on there than recently. So listeners, if you haven't checked out my work just yet, please do. I've been featuring on some other podcasts, which are going to be releasing soon as well. And Dan, we've got an upcoming guest coming soon, don't we?
We do. Nick's Flicks Fix. I said that right.
Nick's Flicks Fix.
We reviewed Prisoners just the other day. We'll release that very shortly. That's going to be a good one. And of course, Jackson, you've been on a couple of podcasts, as you said, and they'll be releasing shortly as well. Well, I've been slack on the movie watching, Jackson. The last film I watched since we last talked was Bad Lieutenant, which is, a week ago now. So I've had a week sort of off.
It must have left a real impact.
Just watched the two films that we'll be discussing today. Well, I will be discussing Capone and Transpotting, and you obviously watched Capone and Coherence. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on both. Before we get into it, we're going to thank our sponsors quickly, Displate and VPN Express, once again for sponsoring us in today's episode. They support us. We support them.
Thank you, expressvpn.com/wewatchthis and displate.com/wewatchthis.
Fantastic sponsors, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Letterboxd, the greatest app on planet Earth, is it, Jackson? It's up there with Raid Shadow Legends and Clash of Clans. Anyway, let's just get into this review because this is going to be an absolute cracker.
Here in the bush. We've been told that we take too long to get to the movie. We take too long to get to our thoughts. And this movie really takes too long to get to the point. So let's get stuck in.
All right, let's get stuck into Capone.
We made a promise. Someday we was going to make it big.
The only thing that really matters is how a man treats his family.
In 1931, the Bondurant brothers of Franklin County, Virginia, run a multi-purpose backwoods establishment that hides their true business, bootlegging. Middle brother Forrest is the brain of the operation, older Howard is the brawn, and younger Jack, the lookout. Wait, hang on, no, that's Lawless.
Not again.
Wrong Tom Hardy gangster movie. Let's try this one again.
Here we go.
Here goes. Suave, charming, and volatile Reggie Cray and his unstable twin brother Ronnie start to leave their mark on the London underworld in the 19...
again.
What do you mean? Didn't we watch Legend?
No, oh my God. I knew this was coming, but I'm still laughing. Go on, give us another one. We know you haven't finished just yet.
All right. Oh, hang on. No, this one mentions something about Batman, Catwoman. No, that can't be it. All right. Once a ruthless businessman and bootlegger who ruled Chicago with an iron fist, Alphonse Capone was the most infamous and feared gangster of American law. At the age of 47, following nearly a decade of imprisonment, dementia rots Alphonse's mind and his past becomes present. Harrowing memories of his violent and brutal origins melt into his waking life. As he spends his final years surrounded by family with the FBI lying in wait, this ailing patriarch struggles to place the memory of the location of millions of dollars he hid away on his property. Dan, that's the plot synopsis for Capone, but what's it really about?
Capone. I have to say straight off the bat, Jackson, this is a cinematic masterpiece. We were worrying if Josh Trank could create as good of a film as his last outing, Fantastic Four, 2015.
You mean Fan Four Stick?
Fan Four Stick. Honestly, one of the greatest superhero films since Batman vs. Superman. Now, Josh Trank, it was all against him here. Tom Hardy, one of the worst actors. Linda Cardellini, one of the worst actors. It was all up against him. The cinematographer, David Lynch's right-hand man. I forgot his name. What's
Peter
his
Deming.
name? Peter Deming.
How dare you forget his name?
I mean, it was all up against him here, and he's come up with a cinematic masterpiece in storytelling. Incredible film from start to finish. Didn't need subtitles at all for Tom Hardy's performance. He was clear, precise with everything he said. It was beautifully laid out. There was no dream sequences, nothing like that. It was a story with complex... It was fucking shit!
I was about to ask, mate, at what point here are we going to start getting you the adult diapers?
This was the worst film of 2020. It was fucking shit.
So it's a 6 out of 10?
Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy, mate. Seriously, you are one of the greatest working actors, in my opinion.
High
Why
praise.
have you signed up for such literal shit? You shit the bed, mate. I just can't believe how could he sign up to something like this? This is ridiculous. I couldn't stand this film. This is one of the worst films I've ever seen. This was a stinker.
Literally. Okay,
He
come on. It
munts
wasn't
and
that
grunts
bad. It
and
wasn't that
moans his
bad.
way through. I couldn't understand. I could not tell you a word he said. I couldn't. I needed to... I should have turned subtitles on. Couldn't tell you a word he said. And why was he impersonating Bugs Bunny? Tell me that.
You got goons walking around.
And then he had a carrot in his mouth, so he might as well been Bugs Bunny. Anyway, look, the redeeming factor of the film was when he was dancing to The Wizard of Oz, and when I don't want to spoil it, but there's a scene where he's in a nappy with a carrot in his mouth and he's got a gun. But you know what? You might never get there, because I will never recommend this film.
Are you done yet?
Oh, look, cinematography was good. Music, when it was there, was okay. Look, it's one of those films where the dream sequences, there's just so many of them. Every good scene is not real. It's like every short film of the last 10 years. You know how there was this sort of period where everyone would go for it was all a dream?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's this movie. Over and over and over. This film is the last half of The Irishman, but the whole movie. Have you seen The Irishman?
Well, The Irishman was 3 hours long, and if this is an hour and a half, of course it's a long.
I don't know. No, in all honesty, is Tom Hardy going to be nominated for a Razzie or an Academy Award?
¿Por qué no los dos?
I mean, it was a bizarre performance. It really was. I couldn't tell you if it was good or bad, because it was just... I was laughing. I feel like I was laughing in unintentional moments, and other moments I wasn't laughing where I should have been. It was just all over the shop, mate. I cannot believe what's happened here. This is and I was looking at some of the reviews just quickly before we started the show. So you can talk soon, Jackson. I was looking at the reviews at the start of the show, and it's so mixed. You've never seen anything like it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all over the board. But man, it's a shocker. Tell me what you thought. Look, you're not as you don't seem as worked up as me.
I've had time to mull this one over and gestate and sit on it. I watched this one a few nights ago. Are you sure you haven't got more points to cover there? You take all the time you want. It's your podcast,
We'll get
mate.
into it. We'll get into it.
Look, Josh Trank and Tom Hardy, they go for gold. You might say they aim for gold and shoot for gold here, but they barely hit brick. This is a big misfire on their part.
Yeah.
There was a lot of talent here at play. There was a lot of money, $20 million, in fact. Much of it does take place within
20
one
million
lavish
for
setting.
what? It was in a house the whole time.
It was in a house. We had some glorious looking statues, and you mentioned Peter Deming's cinematography. You bring up the L word, you bring up Lynch, and look, I'm going to get sucked right in. I was here when I saw his name in the opening credits. I thought, yes, we've got some potential. And all these Roman and Greek looking statues, and I started having some serious flashbacks to Caligula. You ever heard of Caligula?
No.
Okay,
What is it?
So if this movie is a modern day exercise in excess, Caligula is that, but a sex romp in ancient Rome, starring Malcolm McDowell,
Jackson.
and funded by Penthouse for 2.5 hours. Now, if this was 2.5 hours, this might be worse. That was pretty bad film. That was pretty much unwatchable. Could I sit through this again? Yeah, I probably could. But it was
Really?
Yeah.
You could sit through this again. How?
It's a slow, painful meditation on dying. And I get what Josh Trank is going for, but he's not an auteur. This bloke clearly fancies himself as a Spielberg, as a Lucas, as some kind of Kubrick figure. He was one of the... in fact, he might still be the youngest director to ever open with a movie #1 at the box office, and that was Chronicle. You know,
Was that
so
number one?
That was #1 when it came out. So this guy was riding super high, has clearly a very large opinion of himself, but he just can't back it up. Between this, Fan 4 Stick, I'm sorry, but this could be his last chance. If this was his second film, we might say, okay, there were some interesting things at play, but it was a big swing and a miss, and hey, better luck next time. But 3 strikes, you're out, buddy. This was tough. It was tough. There are some redeeming qualities. We're going to get into them when we hit spoiler territory, because a lot of it, we have to uncover some of the plot. And as you said, some of these dream sequences, there's a lot of sleight of hand going on here where we're not quite sure who's really who. But, I mean, what was the worst things about this film? The screenplay was freaking dreadful. The editing, we're not even going to go into that here because that's a whole nother podcast.
Oh, jeez.
And the direction.
Oh, no.
Tom Hardy, I enjoyed his performance. The bloke's acting in a whole nother film compared to everyone else. It's kind of the point. It worked. Could we understand what he was saying? No. Were we meant to? No.
Josh Trank, Chronicle, look, it's been a while since I saw
It wasn't your
Chronicle.
favorite, right?
No, it wasn't my favorite. And look, maybe I have to give it a second chance because it's been a while anyway since I last saw it, and probably need to give it a second chance. But yeah, I haven't been a big fan of his work. Obviously, there is a little bit of talent there, but this isn't the film to showcase it, that's for sure. As you said, he was the editor on this as well, and geez, he probably shouldn't have been. The direction was poor as well.
It's part David Cronenberg, part David Lynch, part The Shining, part Brian De Palma, all smeared in shit.
Yeah, I feel like he was going for a David Lynch vibe and just couldn't even get 10% there. You know what I mean? He was reaching for the stars and he didn't even leave the ground.
He didn't even leave the house in Florida.
He literally didn't leave the house.
Literally did not leave
and
the
that was
house.
annoying me as well. And how many fucking statues do you have to show in the opening scene? I don't understand how it starts. You see 10 minutes of footage and then we get into the slow titles of the film.
Well,
like,
look, I think the pre-credits opening crawl and the fact that we had them in the epilogue as well, I think that might have been added in post just to set up some context. That's as soon as I saw them on screen, the first frames of the movie, I knew we were in for a wild ride. It's never a great sign when you've had a title change and you've got you've got a crawl explaining what should be a pretty simple premise.
Yeah, and it was just the pacing was just so off, so slow. Every shot just dragged.
Slow.
Just dragged.
This did not need to be 104 minutes. We had at least 15 to 20 minutes that could have been shaved off. Would it have saved this film? No, but that's safe to say. But it would have helped.
Far out. I just can't get over like Tom Hardy's performance. I don't know what to think of it.
You know
I'm
what?
still
I liked
battling
it.
in my mind. Was it good or bad?
I liked it.
Did you?
I did. I don't know if it was good or bad either, but I enjoyed it. The guy,
Yeah, look.
the guy he just eschews any
He grabs your
any
attention.
yeah, and he just abstains from anything conventional. You could consider him as one of the best examples as character actor turned movie star or movie star turned character actor. In fact, both him and Jake Gyllenhaal, who you mentioned, we'll cover in a later episode. For me, they're like my top two right now. You've got Hugh Jackman and Chris Hemsworth. I've got Jake Gyllenhaal and Tom Hardy.
No. Let's get this out there. Do you want my official top two right now?
Note it down, listeners. Dan, in a future episode, will give his top two, and it's Hugh Jackman and Chris Hemsworth.
You want my top two right now, in all honesty?
Please.
Joel Edgerton and, say it, Christian Bale. Top two. Those two are the top two. Hugh at three, I reckon. Hugh at three.
And both of them have done movies with Tom Hardy. He's the glue.
He's the glue. And they've all done films with... Say his name.
And thanks so much for listening to We Watch This podcast this week.
Did you think this film was entertaining in any parts of it? Were you ever entertained throughout the 103 minutes or whatever it was?
It had me for about 10 minutes when we got lost in some weird gangster cross between The Shining and Twin Peaks.
Was that the middle section there?
I don't know if it was the middle or it was the end or the start. No one really knows. But whenever Capone met some friends at a party, we'll say before we get right into spoilers.
That's what I was going to say. That was the best part for me as well. So once again, we've...
Very confounding, very unsettling, but it did work.
Well, look, going back to Tom Hardy's performance, I'm still rattled. Was it good or bad? I want the listeners to let us know on Instagram and all social medias what you thought. I'm so conflicted. Was he good? Was he bad? I feel like he was hit and miss throughout the whole thing.
He was bold, that's for sure.
Some parts it was comical. It was sort of bad and comical, and then other parts he was really nailing it. But he did stick to the character throughout the whole runtime. But I still feel like that Bugs Bunny voice, and they even mentioned Bugs Bunny. And look, maybe Jackson, hear me out, but maybe I should have done a double feature for this film. Space Jam into Capone rather than Transpotting into Capone. Maybe that would have been a better double feature. Probably not one that many would have done, but...
Our listeners don't know. We're recording this late in a Monday night here in Australia, and Dan's had one hell of a Monday watch between this double feature.
Yeah, we'll go into my thoughts on Transpotting later, but so why don't we just head into spoilers? Before we do, we'll just give our final thoughts for the non-spoiler section.
Please, I'm sure you've got more to say before we get stuck in. Kick us off here.
Look, guys, I cannot recommend this film to any shape or form of human, whether you're from Uganda, Netherlands, Australia. It doesn't matter where you are.
Shout out to our listeners. We appreciate
probably not enjoy this film. If you did enjoy this film, hit me up, tell me why, and unfollow me straight after. I'm only kidding. Capone, look, it went bold. I guess it went for a different sort of style, mob style. It's not a story we've seen explored really ever. So they went for something different, but they just fell flat, didn't they? It was boring. It was dull, and without Tom Hardy, this could have been even worse. To think of how bad it could have been without him, with some random in that role. Jeez. Look, I'll go into what I would have liked to see in the spoiler section, but Jackson, what are your final thoughts on the movie?
Josh Trank made a very audacious move in taking on this project. It's a pretty fearless and gutsy use of 20 million from several different production companies, including
about 7.
Probably 10.
Felt like it.
Let's be honest. Including famed producer Lawrence Bender, who's best known for having worked with Tarantino on some of his earlier pictures. It's tantalizing to consider what Tom Hardy could have been playing a picture where Capone was at his peak and not in these ailing years. But if someone's going to give us a bizarre villain performance, it's got to be Tom Hardy. I can't recommend this to mainstream audiences. If you read some of these reviews and you like what you're hearing and you really want to strap in for a bizarre, weird ride, sure, go ahead, be my guest. You'll likely get a hell of a lot more out of this than we will. It'll be interesting to examine this in the next 10, 15 years. And if Josh Trank makes another film, then, oh boy.
Shit.
Again, that being said, can't recommend it to mainstream audiences. Dan, let's get straight into our... Let's get into our senile spoilers.
Spoiler alert. Jackson, I might as well be senile
so he
after
dies.
this. I might as well be senile after this because I felt it.
Were you feeling a bit incontinent having just watched it? You might need us to run.
Look
the
at me, I'm all over the
times.
shop. I literally just finished it an hour ago. I'm absolutely dazed. I'm in confusion, much like Tom Hardy throughout this whole film. What was that other film? It was Bloodshot, where Vin Diesel was confused the entire film. That's Tom Hardy in this film, but he's also got dementia and he shits himself.
It's a much meatier role. I mean, Vin Diesel had nothing to do in Bloodshot.
Let's not compare them.
And Tom Hardy had all of the beautiful Florida scenery and every alligator he could ever dream of to chew on throughout this movie. And the guy chewed the shit out of them just like he did those cigarettes and carrot sticks.
I thought the alligator was going to get him in the end, but once again, dream sequence. Every good sequence.
Well, you know, Dan, it was just so deep. You get it because he's drowning, right? He's drowning in his dementia, so he's going to drown in the lake.
It was not subtle at all, was it?
It wasn't trying to be.
It was, come on.
You put it best when you said Josh Trank and Tom Hardy shit the bed, and there's no subtlety in shitting the bed.
I mean, how many reviews are we going to see on Letterboxd with...
How many movies are we going to cover about shit? Between this, the platform, we're doing Human Centipede next.
We need something about fairies and angels next, please.
Angels and Demons? The Da Vinci Code?
I just watched Transpotting. Like, that has the most filthiest toilet.
You watched what?
Transpotting.
Transpotting? What's Transpotting?
Yeah. Anyway, did you watch this with subtitles?
No. In case you hadn't realised, Dan, I believe we're speaking the English language and this was an English language feature. Did you watch this with subtitles?
The only coherent sort of sentences he put together were in Italian. It was all grunts and moans. It was grunts and moans, mate. You can't say this is one of his better performances. I just don't think you can.
What were you expecting? It's a Tom Hardy film. As if he's not going to grunt and moan. You watch Mad Max Fury Road. Come on.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and you think of Bane, you think of Mad Max, you think of...
It's amazing what
Dunkirk.
This guy can communicate just with his body language. He's he really is a dynamic talent. We've been crapping on him and Josh Trank, but they clearly have some chemistry together. From what I'm told, apparently they play video games.
Video games together.
Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about that though, and neither would you.
No, I don't play video games very often. Dan Allen Gaming, if you want to subscribe. What did you think of the makeup of the film? Because I also thought that was not great either. I really don't have much good to say here, Jackson. You're going to have to really lift our spirits because this was a real dud for me.
What do you mean?
It was hard not to pick my phone up.
Who was wearing makeup?
Tom Hardy was wearing makeup, and it just looked fake, especially when he was wet. It really came through as really... I just didn't think much of it.
Yeah, it looked like he might have walked out to the back patio there at the Florida home and just picked up some of the mud and started smearing it on his face. No, I enjoyed the makeup work on this. I thought it was very effective. It just made him look like this repulsive monster. He stood out from the rest of the cast and everything on screen and totally looked out of place. I felt that worked.
Yeah. What about the cinematography?
Gorgeous. Peter Deming, give me more. This guy's worked with some fantastic directors in Hollywood, and look, he's still got many years ahead of him. Was it stunning? Was it the best work? No, but there's only so many times you can
I feel
shoot
like
this gorgeous home in Florida before it gets a little bit old.
I feel like he did his absolute best with that house. I mean, there's not much else you can cover. I think he did a good job, and he probably...
There's only so many different angles that you can shoot these statues from. Although Josh Trank made sure to leave every one of them in.
Oh, shit. Oh, my God. Literally every statue shot you can think of was left in. It's like he had no footage to pull, and he's like, I'm going to have to use another statue shot here. Oh, another one here. I've got nothing else to use.
When you saw the edited by Josh Trank credit show up in the beginning...
Oh, no. That was the end.
For you, just like it was for me, was that a telltale sign of, uh-oh?
Yeah. It was a real... Because obviously, look, I went in knowing this was very divisive and a lot of people didn't like it. I just went in knowing because it's been out for a week now, I think, in the US, and it was floating around.
Well, you say out, but it's really been in. The only way to get to this movie is through video on demand.
True, and I'd love to know how it does on VOD, and if I just don't have high hopes, that's for sure.
Would this have hit cinemas?
It would have, but geez, it'd be a flop. Tell you what,
filming wrapped on this in 2018. In fact, its original working title, I should say, was Fonzo.
I saw that, and they changed it, did they?
It was changed. Whoever bought this movie to distribute it, which we've got here, Vertical Entertainment. We've
heard of them from such films as
fill in the blank here. So I don't know. But 20 million, how many people are going to watch this on video on demand? Well, when there's nothing else out, there could be a few. Tom Hardy, you like him, I like him, lots of people like him.
He's a leading man. He's got the star quality. He's been in a lot of features.
Charismatic. Every time he's on screen in any film, he will just totally steal it. Like, think back to Inception. The guy totally tears that movie away from anyone else he shares time with.
I think back to Revenant, where I thought he was better than Leo, just quietly.
There's no love, there's no life. Surrounded by this life's and lies. In this world, I hold my wife to my chest in the night. I press her face close to mine. Wipe the tears from my eyes. I don't need to see my baby cry.
Look, I've made a habit of bashing Leo on the podcast 2 or 3 times now, but don't get me wrong, Leo's fantastic, but I reckon Tom Hardy stole the show in that as well. Inception, definitely. Warrior's another strong performance from him. Even Venom, I thought he was okay. Not the greatest of films, but probably better than this. Seriously, this just wasn't enjoyable. There was a couple of good scenes, I would say. I just wanted them. So what I would have liked to see, Jackson.
Please. This is great.
Look, I'm not being a director, being a writer. I'm sure it's extremely difficult.
Clearly, Josh Trank goes through a lot of stress through these projects. We look at some of the publicity and outcry from him after being, I guess, booted from Fan 4Stick. That it's clearly been tough. But sorry to derail things as we usually do. Go for it, buddy.
No, what I would have done with this is instead of tell this story of a deteriorating man on his last year to live, instead of using the character of Capone, why don't we create a new character altogether? And then it becomes a whole new landscape where you've got more freedom. Instead of having to go off the path of this real life character, you've got freedom to create your own storylines here, and that way it might be a little bit more interesting. You don't have to hit certain beats throughout the film. Maybe that would have been a way to save this film in a way, because then, it's a bit more intriguing. I don't know. I didn't mind the concept of this is his last year to live, and I haven't seen that very often. It
for
just
good reason.
Wasn't. That's the thing. Is it for good reason? Is it too much? I mean, they had a little story interweave there about his son, his supposed lost son, that just fell flat. There was no payoff at all.
Yeah, some of these plot threads just. I think that points to this real botched editing job. It could be the screenplay.
I think so. Yeah.
Who knows? But plots were popping up with 20 minutes to go.
Oh, I know. What was that?
The $10 million bag of cash. Who knows what was happening there? I think that was
that is shocking. It really is.
It was. I think it was just Josh Trank just farting around.
You just wonder what happened, what he was going for.
I think that why question that you proposed, why was it Capone and why was it this period of his life? I think that's fantastic. And so did CBR.com when they interviewed Josh Trank about a week ago, since we're recording this here for the movie. So here's the question they posed to him, and it's one we'd love to ask too. Why did you want to make a movie about Capone? Here's Josh Trank's answer. It's a long, nuanced answer that I'll try not to be too long-winded about, but there's a few reasons. I'm going to cut this down for brevity because he is very long-winded about it. So here goes. One is just something that I'm always interested in movies, is just the deconstruction of myth, the deconstruction of iconic figures, the deconstruction of mythic ideas. The finished product of Chronicle was very much the movie that I dreamt of making. And that was a way to deconstruct the myth of superheroes and superpowers in a way that brought it to this very relatable, emotional story of what would happen if these powers were given to this group of boys dealing with typical boy things, and how things would go wrong with that sort of teenage masculinity. So, with Capone, the end result of this, it's a deconstruction of both the mythic figure and just the idea of masculinity itself. And it's sort of a window into the experience of somebody who would be perceived as one of the most powerful, feared men in the world being reduced to a near vegetable state where his own mental faculties are deceiving him, and his physical ones too, clearly as he shits the bed. And he's sort of unable to defend himself, and is left frightened and paranoid and contending with lack of his own identity, and is confused by his own sense of identity.
Problem with that...
Now that's solid. What's the problem with that, Dan?
The problem with that is that no matter how bad of a man this guy was, we don't see it, so we just jump straight in, and we can't help but feel a little bit sorry for him, and it doesn't work.
No, and it's not that entertaining. In fact, it's
not
grueling,
entertaining.
Painful.
Yeah,
It's been described as disgusting and grotesque. I have to agree. I've watched some pretty feral films and still enjoyed them, and I know one you hated, Midsommar, that despite being violent, I quite enjoyed. Parts of this were fascinating, but on the whole, it just is a real drag. And Josh Trank, he really wants to pull apart Capone and have Tom Hardy really rip him to shreds. You brought up a point where we get that 5-6 minute sequence where he's gunning everyone down, holding a gold-plated Tommy gun in an adult diaper and a dressing gown
with a carrot,
because the cigar. Tom Hardy, Al Capone, completely out of his mind. But it's a good idea, and Josh Trank is clearly an ideas person, but he just can't assemble it. He can't put it into a coherent picture.
You know how you can make that work, and how I believe you can make that work is we make this film not about Tom Hardy. We make this film about someone else battling against Tom Hardy in a way, and we only see the frightening parts of Tom Hardy with a couple of the deranged elements. But then we, as an audience, we don't know what he's going to do next when this main character, I don't know, look, I'm making stuff up here, but another main character comes in, we don't know what he's going to do. And when he shoots everyone, it's crazy because we don't know what this guy's going to do. Something like that, I feel like, would have pulled it off better instead of just doing a deep dive into this guy where we know he's going to go crazy. We've seen multiple dream sequences where he goes crazy. None of it's ever real. Why do I care if all these sequences aren't even real? This is another thing. Why all the interesting sequences, there's no payoff because none of them are real. It's just, there's so many
It's all there to shock and confuse, and it's smoke and mirrors, right? And as you said, there's no payoff. We're waiting for this to reward us and to really feel like enduring it was worth it. But it's not a fun experience. There's no gold at the end of the rainbow. There's no red slippers to click together so we can go back to Kansas. He is the cowardly lion, right? But it's just there's ideas that are there. But is this the first script? Is it the second draft? What was this? Should Josh Trank have just been attached to direct and then someone else take over as editing? Yeah. Should someone else have gone over the screenplay and done a few drafts? Absolutely. It's just bizarre.
Did he write the film as well? Was he the solo credit on the writing of this film?
Dan, you best believe this bloke was solo writing credit.
Wow. Well, that says it all, doesn't it?
Just like Fan Four Stick. Well, actually, not just like Fan Four Stick. There, you could almost point the finger at the studio and hold them to blame. All of it.
I don't think you
Josh
can.
Trank
I think that's a load of BS too.
Okay.
I think that was him. I really do. But we can go into another time. Look, I got nothing against the guy. He's obviously got some sort of talent. Chronicle was a hit. Overall, it was a hit. People loved it.
I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it. A lot of my friends enjoyed it. I'm in the minority in saying it wasn't that good. I think I'm in the minority there, but he's got some talent. If you can pull off a number one hit film in the world, you have talent. There's no doubt. We're not questioning that, but we're questioning his writing abilities in a way here, and his I don't know. I feel like he
Stay in your lane. Stick to one.
Correct.
Thing. Look at what big time directors that you're a fan of, such as Spielberg, have done. Find your niche and stick to it. Dan, you had a great conversation about this, where you've produced a short film, and you understand after that as a director, it's your vision, and you probably will end up wearing many hats, but you want to stick to that one job and make that your own. Own it.
Oh yeah.
These things are meant to be collaborative. And things are going to be better when you've got others on board and they can give their input. Here, it's like, I mean, you've got Peter Deming shooting your movie and it looks like garbage.
Maybe this number one hit has gotten to his head here and now two big fails. Well, it's probably going to be two big fails in a row. I wonder, will he get that next chance? Will he get that third chance? Probably. I mean, someone will probably take a shot at him.
Fourth chance.
Sorry. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm not counting Chronicle, but will he get the fourth chance to go again? Probably, because now his name's out there, and you look at the wide film community, a lot of people know his name now, even after these two bombs. He's sort of got some notoriety, so he'll probably get picked up, but it'll probably be another lower budget film. So
let's get this guy, a skilled screenwriter, to just bust out a top-notch script and see how that goes. If we think back to Chronicle, Josh Trank's first film, written by Max Landis, now blacklisted. Someone else. There's got to be someone else who can do some awesome work.
He needs to stick to directing, leave a skilled screenwriter.
He's got some great ideas.
And leave the editing to a professional like Lee Smith or someone like that who can take this thing and make it cohesive and feel like an actual proper story, because this was just all over the shop.
Speaking of all over the shop, how did you find your way through this film, considering it lacks any sense of internal logic or rules? We're never quite sure if what these characters are doing and saying are inside Capone's head. In fact, there's many sequences that seem to happen without involving him, such as Matt Dillon's character, who we believe is an apparition and a ghost. Yet he's on the phone to someone.
Oh, mate. Matt Dillon, I was falling asleep in every scene he was in. He's ageless, don't get me wrong. He's a decent actor. But, geez, I was not invested in that at all. And it was just bizarre storytelling again. Was he real? Was he not? I couldn't even tell you. I didn't think he was real. But that's, as I said, on the phone, it's giving mixed messages. And is it come down to the editing or the screenplay? I think a bit of both.
Absolutely. This film's heavy on motifs and symbolism, but it's very hard to interpret, very challenging. This is part of why we can't recommend it to mainstream audiences. Whereas a David Lynch movie, it's about the experience, and if you want to read into what some things mean, and is this real? Is this in a dream? Here, it's just, who knows what the hell it means. I don't know what he's trying to communicate.
Yeah, look, I thought you'd enjoy this one a little bit more than me.
So did I.
Because
it was everything I was hoping for and more.
Yeah. It just, I feel like it was just a little bit too boring, wasn't it? That was the main gripe we have with it. It's just slow paced, and it's not even a long movie. That's the worst part.
It was the worst kind of. It was the worst kind of bad film where it's just terribly boring.
I'll give it one thing. The scene in the middle where he's walking into the crowd and that whole exchange following the boy with the balloon. I think there was a 10-minute chunk there where it had my engagement. I was engaged and I like what I saw. The soundtrack was pumping a little bit harder. I felt something, and then it all washed away again, and that was it. That was probably the only 10 minutes I could even remember enjoying even a little bit. The rest just fell by the wayside. I mean, it honestly felt like the music and some of the way it was shot was a little bit like a horror film in some sequences as well.
Yeah, for sure. That dream sequence you mentioned ripped straight from movies like Lost Highway and Twin Peaks. When we get around to reviewing those, Dan, and you watch them for the first time, you'll realize what Josh Trank was going for, and it does still work here, but it's left feeling hollow and empty. And some of the ironic notes that Josh Trank finishes on after these, gripping shots, like that we then get Capone having been woken up by his wife because he's thrown up, or he's got more poop in the bed. Sometimes he gets shocked out of his hallucinations because he's dribbling. It's just it's tough stuff, and you don't quite sympathize for him though, because there is a mythology surrounding Capone. You still want to view him as this evil, abhorrent monster. So we can't sympathize, and it's a brave move by Tom Hardy to take this. Anytime the guy takes on a performance, it does become an event movie. You want to go out and see this. You want to find out what Tom Hardy's going to be in next. I remember suggesting this to you as part of our schedule, Dan, and you're a little bit on the fence, but I was excited. The moment Tom Hardy's on that poster, you know what? I'm sold. It's just so bad that we got a bad bill of goods.
I was on the fence because we have seen Tom Hardy play a mob figure a number of times. So I was just a little bit cautious, but he is also one of my favorite actors. Now, Linda Cardellini, if I'm saying her name correctly,
Velma, Scooby-Doo.
Velma did not have much to do in this film. When she was on screen, she was good, maybe even great. I can't even remember, but she didn't have much to do, did she? And she's once again subjected to a wife of a protagonist, much like she is in every other film she does. I think she deserves a lot better. She's a great actress.
Look, at least she wasn't a dead wife like in a Nolan film.
Oh, no. One scene that caught me off guard, Jackson, if you remember it, the stabbing scene out of nowhere. You just see these stabs over and over, and it's just scenes like this. Are they for shock value? Stuff like that, the shit the pants scene, several scenes. It's like, are you trying to be a little bit horror here? Are you trying to be like, mixed messaging again.
Yeah, it's very Cronenberg how a lot of this body horror comes into play, particularly with how Tom Hardy looks. And we're covering this material in excruciating detail, much more than we need to. It just ends up being very sad and tragic. And you say like a horror film, I guess, sure, but it's
a horror film.
You're confused because, yeah, it's horrific to watch.
It's a horror film because it's so bad. It's so scarily bad. Look, we've covered all the crap elements, no pun intended. What were the redeeming factors? The redeeming factors for you, if there were any?
Tom Hardy. Very brave performance. I'll give him that. Peter Deming's work. I did enjoy the costumes. I enjoyed this mansion. I love seeing Kyle MacLachlan in a film, so I guess it's just more nods to David Lynch's work. I'm sorry, everyone. You go on about Nolan, I go on about this guy. We need some new material. It's 13 episodes in. Come on, we'll get there, all right? We promise. Look, the dream sequences, I did enjoy some ideas. There's that ideas word again about Josh Trank playing around with the logic, and we're never quite sure what's real and what's not. Unfortunately, it's not very entertaining. Dan, what were your redeeming elements? What did you enjoy most about this 104 grueling, tragic minutes?
Not much. I tell you what, some of the dream sequences, as I said, were captivating. Some, not all. And that's about where the buck ends. Seriously. Even, look, Tom Hardy's performance, as I said, I had mixed feelings. Some parts were good. I guess some of the scenes are memorable. Let's say that. Especially the scene, as we said, with the diaper, the carrot stick, the Tommy gun. I'll remember that scene for a long time. So he's done something right there, I guess. Him shitting the bed.
So ridiculous.
I mean, it's ridiculous. How can you forget something like that? So there are memorable scenes. We'll give it that. Well, are they entertaining? Yeah, I guess so. Besides that, I can't have much to say. I mean, the cinematography was good. Was it great? That's questionable. But it's not really his fault because he's got one mansion to play with and not much scenery. So a lot of close-ups of Tom Hardy here, drooling and grunting and moaning. He's done the best he could with what he was given. And look, as I said, guys, this isn't one I'd recommend. How about we go straight into our final ratings, Jackson? I think we've uncovered everything that Capone has to offer.
Please make it stop.
Look, I'm gonna kick us off here, Jackson, with a 2 out of 10 for Capone. Yeah, 2 out of 10 for me. Really,
by far the worst rating we've dished out so far in our epic
this was a
13 episode run.
Look, I have to put it against. I think Bloodshot's the worst reviewed so far. I gave that a 4.
Yeah,
now,
we each gave that a 4, which I think in retrospect we might go back and revisit someday.
Yeah, it might be a 3, but I would probably rather watch a Bloodshot 3 more times than this 3 more times. We always come back to it. Bloodshot 3 times in a row over this, probably. Seriously, it's a slow burn. At least Bloodshot has some action, you know, something redeemable, some fun elements. I mean, this was just really depressing too, and just unintentionally funny. Doesn't quite hit. I tell you one scene. One scene I was laughing. I don't think I was supposed to be. He spits on her face, and she slaps into the ground. It was ridiculous. Oh my god, it's so stupid, man. Oh, it's a 2 out of 10.
There are many sequences where we're not sure if we're meant to be laughing at the film, laughing with it. I think it's meant to be part of the charm, but
somewhere in there is a decent film. It never quite reaches that. 2 out of 10.
3 out of 10. Gold balloons. Okay, I did enjoy this a little more than you did. I wanted to love this movie going in. I've already said it was everything I hoped for and more. It's just that unfortunately, I was hoping for something really terrible rather than surprising me with something really great. It's a criminal misfire, you might say. Tom Hardy has got this great Hollywood mysticism about him and his villain portrayals. The guy doesn't want to be doing anything leading man material. He's so charismatic, and here it does shine.
Yep.
But he can't carry this absolute stinker. It's a big failure. It's not entertaining to watch. Would I watch it 3 more times? Ooh, I've watched this 3 more times than I would Bloodshot. But again, 3 out of 10 gold balloons.
There you go. So that equals a 2.5, which is going to be a 2, Jackson, on Letterboxd.
Ooh.
That is by far our worst.
It's actually coming in at a 1 out of 5 on Letterboxd.
Jesus, we're going to get a few.
Grief.
We're going to get a few nasty comments for that, I reckon.
I don't know about nasty comments because I've got some information here on what the public and critics have thought so far. How about we go into that and see how we align? So, listeners, as we go through here, let's keep the caveat. We've given it a 1 out of 5 collectively. Here we go. IMDb, from just over 4,000 ratings so far. It's the second most popular film on the website, which, you know, maybe Trolls World 2 or 3 will come out next week and blow that out of the water. 5 out of 10. So there are some people out there who really enjoy this. Whoever you are, please don't send us hate mail. Rotten Tomatoes, 39% from 97 critic reviews. An average score of 4.96 out of 10. Yeah, so it's not faring very well with the critics. An audience score of 36%, and they've given about a 2.5 out of 5 on Rotten Tomatoes. Metacritic, 45 from 33 critical reviews. And finally, shout-outs again. You mentioned them at the top. Letterboxd, 2.3 out of 5. And it's had just shy of 5,000 members have watched it so far. So now in its first week of streaming, we'll see what its legacy will be.
Give it some time. It's going to slowly dwindle. I can tell you it'll hit the ones very soon, I think.
I think this is going to really fall out of people's minds and they're going to be forgetting it, just like Capone forgot his wife and everyone else by the time he kicked the bucket. He didn't forget his son, though, Tony. So there was one redeeming element. Tony might have only shown up 3 times across the 110 minutes, but
ridiculous.
At least it was sweet-natured there at the end, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, Letterboxd, I did see some reviews, as I said at the top of the show, and I did see some 4 and 5s out of 5s there from some crazy people. If you're listening, please hit me up and tell me what you were smoking or drinking before you watched this, because that's ridiculous. No, everyone's got their own opinion, and we respect it. But for us, it's a 1 out of 5, a 2 out of 10 for Capone. Jackson, let's take a minute to thank our sponsors for today. Display are our first sponsor for today. Display create thick metal plates with gallery quality prints on them. They easily stick to your wall and look great in any room or office environment. I suggest getting this as a gift, and so does Jackson. It's a perfect gift for a friend.
I sure do.
Look, it's not much money, especially with our 20% discount. If you go to We Watch This, our profile on Display, you get 20% off one. It's a perfect gift for a friend if they like TVs, movies, any sort of figure or character. There's a poster, a metal plate for them. There's an easy magnet mounting system. Doesn't require any nail, tapes or power tools. And once again, 20% off. We Watch This. Display.com, guys.
Dan, before we get into our second sponsor, which display posters have you got coming? You told me you picked up some new Tom Hardy movie ones. What have you got on the way?
Yeah, I've got some Tom Hardy posters on the way. The first one is Venom.
Oh, what a classic.
The second one is Oliver Twist, the TV miniseries from 2007 and 8.
And the third, I'm a bit perplexed that Display'd have that on there, but the third the more you know.
The short film Tom Hardy did in 2001 called Get a Grip. So they're the three coming from Displayed, and of course
Wow, did you paint them yourself? You just had a look there at Tom Hardy's filmography and thought,
I may have his IMDb up. I may have his IMDb up. Jackson,
don't pull back the curtain.
Jackson, I'll pull up the curtain of your dress anytime. What's our second sponsor?
Hashtag me too. Our second sponsor for today, Dan, and I'm so glad you asked, it's ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN.com/WeWatchThis for 3 months free access. Now, if you're going to be hiding a bag of $10 million cold hard cash somewhere around your manor in Florida, you want to best believe that you're going to keep your online activity free from being traced. You don't want the FBI listening to your phone calls and snooping around your property. You want to use expressvpn.com/WeWatchThis for your 3 months free. You can choose from over 160 locations. Some of the locations we've chosen are somewhere underneath in 333 levels in Spain. We've done it from Nazi Germany, and now we're doing it while surrounded here by alligators in Florida, across 94 countries, and we're going to keep your real location hidden from prying eyes. Maybe other gangsters as well. Access any content, no matter your location. Say goodbye to blocked services and websites. For example, if you're in Australia, you could create a US of A Netflix, and with ExpressVPN, you can have access to changing your country. And some Netflix movies and TV shows are only available in the US. It's super handy, super simple to use. One more time, we're going to beat this over the head just like Capone beat us into submission with how boring it was. ExpressVPN.com/WeWatchedThis.
Can we thank Jackson?
Yeah, of course. Please go.
Can we thank Jackson for that incredible ad read? I mean, that has got to be one of the best ad reads I've ever heard. Let's give him an applause. Well done, Jackson. That's fantastic.
Look, I'd like to take credit and for receiving this award for all the hard work that I've put into it, but I just can't. It goes out to our fantastic script writers out there and producers. They really put together a solid advertisement for me to read. And now back to our regular scheduled program.
So that's it, Capone. Well, that was a fun one, Jackson.
That was a joy.
Last to be had. Look, it was Torture, the film, but it was a fun one to review. Now
we came out on the other end, unlike Matt.
We always come out the other end, just
Certainly,
like Matt.
Just like in the bed.
Just like the shit in Tom Hardy's bed. Do we? Oh God! Look, let's look. Last week we talked about, once again, we had the challenge.
The challenge.
You set me with a movie. I set you with a movie. We did. What did we do last week? We did Invitation, and I did Bad Lieutenant, and then we tasked this week.
Port of Call, New Orleans.
You were going to watch Coherence, a movie not many people would have heard of, a dinner party sort of film, and I was tasked with Trainspotting.
Dan, you've just finished Trainspotting. You're hot off the presses. Please give me your thoughts on this Danny Boyle Scottish heroin junkie film.
Now, I said last week that I had seen this film. Boy, was I wrong. Let me put that straight out there. I was wrong. Now, this is one crazy movie, Jackson. Can I just say, can you give me a normal movie next time we do this segment? Every film you give me is a wild goose chase of sex, drugs, rock and roll. I'm starting to worry about you, mate. Look, this was. I was in junkie limbo for about 95 minutes here. Ewan McGregor's Scottish as ever. Gotta love him. How old is he here? About 18. Jeez, he's young.
He looks every year of it though. It looks like he's been on the needle for the last 10.
Jesus, I mean, he looks like he's been on heroin for years. But I guess that's the point. It's a weird film, man. It's bizarre. I can see why people love this. It's a cult sort of hit to a lot of people. And I'm interested to see the sequel, that's for sure. It's just a weird sort of balance between comedy and like tragedy, serious moments. Especially, I don't know how recently you've seen it, but there's I've
probably watched this movie about 8 times.
There's a scene, as you know, where he's on the bed going absolutely fucking batshit crazy, and he sees a fucking baby on the wall, and it spins its head. I'm laughing my head off. But he's fucking... The acting's incredible, and I feel sorry for him, but I'm laughing. I'm conflicted. I don't know what to think. I mean, and I have to say, that is the worst toilet I've not only seen in Scotland, but in the world. Jesus Christ, mate. I mean, talk about shitters today. I've went through the ringer. The double feature of this and Capone, oh my God. And then why don't I follow it up with, what should I follow it up with? Human Centipede, just to top it off? Far out.
Listen, we must apologise. Our next episode, we are not going to be using any foul language, and we're not going to make any mention of fecal matter, because today we have just smeared it everywhere.
Oh, no. I was surprised Danny Boyle was the director on this. For some reason I didn't know, or it escaped my memory. The acclaimed director, Slumdog Millionaire, recently Yesterday, which I don't know if you've seen. That was a good film. Steve Jobs.
I think you might be the only one there thinking it's a good film, mate.
Oh, it was all right. I wouldn't say good, but he's done a lot of good work over the years. So I want to say one thing, Jackson. The crop tops that popped up in this film. Tell me you wouldn't wear one of these around the house. I mean, Ewan McGregor really rocks that crop top, doesn't he?
He kills it. Look, I got a couple words to say about this film. It's Sick Boy and Spud forever. I love this movie. I think back to first seeing this when I was maybe 16 or 17, and mind you, we're very young here, listeners. So probably 16 or 17, not the best age for Trainspotting, but God, that fist pump moment at the end with Spud, it's just great.
I might have to pick this one up.
First time watching that. What was that?
I might have to pick this one up on Blu-ray.
Oh, really?
I gave it an 8 out of 10 in the end, yeah.
Oh, fantastic, mate. I'm glad you're on board. Is that another 8 out of 10 between this and Bad Lieutenant Port of Call, New Orleans?
Bad, I gave a 7
out
of 10. But, yeah, I think this was that little bit better. It had a little bit of everything. Great soundtrack as well.
In the sequel. Oh, the soundtrack. Once you've seen this, you'll never forget Born Slippy by Underworld.
Yeah, it's got a great soundtrack. It's crazy, off the wall. Not for everyone, don't get me wrong. It's not a mainstream movie, I wouldn't say. I probably wouldn't say it was a mainstream movie. You probably need subtitles to hear some of the things they're saying as well. Not as bad as Capone, but yeah, it's a classic, isn't it? So I'd give it an 8 out of 10. What did you end up giving it? A 9, was it?
So I'm a little bit mixed on Train Spotting. I want to go in for the full Monty there.
Do ya?
Talking about another film from the north, but it'll be reserved for a rewatch this year. I'll probably watch the film every year, at least once a year, every year since I've been 18.
What is it you love about it so much?
The energy.
The energy, yeah. It's just non-stop energy, isn't it?
It is. And as you get older and you grow a little wiser, and now that we've even got a great sequel to follow, it
I can't wait to see the sequel. Is it live up?
No comment.
Okay.
It's had a mixed reception from fans, probably more mixed than the critics. So I'll leave it there. I don't want to reveal too much more. I saw it once at the theaters. I enjoyed myself. Okay. I want to watch it again, and who knows? T2 Train Spotting could be a future episode.
What's the difference in timelines? Because that was 1998, the first one.
I believe the first one was 1996, and this was
1996.
This was 20 years later.
20 years later. Oh my god, I didn't know that. Okay.
Perfect, spot on, and Ewan McGregor still as great as ever.
Oh wow, that's going to be good.
Train Spotting in the Star Wars prequels. This guy is just a superstar.
And Harley Quinn as Black Mask, unforgettable. Yeah, so cool. Now you watch Coherence. This is a film not many of you guys have seen. Now I suggest you watch Train Spotting if you haven't, and I also suggest you watch Coherence.
Well, Dan suggested you watch it, so we'll just finish off the segment there. Thank you all for listening once again.
I want to hear what Jackson has to say. It's a very bizarre film. Talk us through it.
Thank you for prefacing it, mate. Coherence, now available on Netflix here in Australia, and I hope internationally, as I am going to recommend you watch it. You ever seen Primer? Shane Carruth's Primer?
No, I haven't.
Coherence reminded me a lot of Primer. Another super low budget movie. Coherence was produced for about $50,000. Pretty much in one setting, which is this one house. It's another dinner party from hell movie. I'm noticing a bit of a trend here from you, Dan. Coherence has us slipping between reality, slipping between timelines. There's a fair bit of exposition. There's a lot to cover. How it handles and reveals some of the twists and turns, very similar to The Invitation, which you recommended that I watch in our previous episode. Here, Coherence, far more effective for me. I thought the performances almost across the board were here's the word, the F word, fantastic, particularly our leading lady. And we even had the actor who played, I believe his character's name was Mike. It was Brendan Harris. I'm sorry, any Buffy fans, if I've got that wrong. I love that tongue-in-cheek reference tab where he said that he starred on Roswell in every episode. He's actually from Buffy, and he was in about 150 episodes of Buffy. I thought, where have I seen this guy before? It was Xander Harris. But yeah, Coherence, I don't want to give too much away other than it's just an awesome bit of filmmaking, especially for so little money.
Good story. We get
every possible element, everything explored, and it never gets too confusing. Maybe up until the final 5 to 10 minutes, it gets lost a little bit. We get a little pretentious. It just oversteps that line, oversteps that boundary. But everything that came before the previous 75 minutes or so were rocking.
Well, when they first step outside and they see, we won't go into spoilers, but you've seen that scene, they see the other side, there's some tension there. There's some mystique there that really elevates it. For a low-budget film, I think they've done a phenomenal job, haven't they? They've really outclassed the budget.
I bring up Primer because Primer also explores that Schrodinger's cat principle. And Schrodinger's cat, for those that aren't aware, which, hey, Coherence will actually tell you what the principle is and almost does it very artfully. Schrodinger's cat is a theoretical exercise where a cat enters a box and we can't see inside the box. Once the cat is in the box, it's in there with a piece of radioactive material. The theory is that while the cat's in the box, we don't know if it's dead or alive. So what we can only assume is it's both. It's existing in two different places. And when we open the box, all is going to be revealed. Take that in with you as you watch Coherence. You're going to have a good time. For me, it comes in at 8 out of 10 glow sticks.
Nice. Glow sticks. I like that.
So I enjoyed that more than
you didn't have much to work with there, but yeah, glow sticks makes sense.
It was going to be glow sticks, so it was going to be ping pong paddles.
Yeah. I really commend them as well for the dialogue of that film, where there wasn't really a set in stone script. The director gave each person their own sort of marks to hit in the conversation, and he just let it work, let the conversation flow naturally, and I think that worked in its favor. And I think it was shot over a couple of nights as well. It was really well done for
there's
tight budget.
There's a lot to shoot there over those couple nights.
It just goes to show this movie on a $50,000 budget, no name actors. I mean, the guy from Buffy, he's not anything special in terms of
Nicholas
draw card.
Brendan, by the way. I'm so sorry to all you Comic-Con fans out there.
He's a good actor, but he's not a draw card like Tom Hardy. That was a $20 million film, night and day difference. It doesn't matter about the budget. This just proves it. So, yeah, for me, look, I'd probably go 8 out of 10. I'd have to rewatch it, but it's 7 or 8 from me as well. So, beautiful. 2 8s, I guess. Again, we're giving each other good recommendations. Now, our segment now, Jackson, walk us through our new segment here.
So we've got a brand new segment where we're using it this week to kick us off as a way to cleanse the palate, you could say. We both love Tom Hardy, and in future episodes, we're going to bring this segment back where we're going to be exploring a subgenre from the film that we're talking about. Now, it could be the star, it could be the director, it could even be the producer. We want to go back and look at a filmography, and we want to make some recommendations for our listeners. We love the feedback we get from all of you, and you've told us on our social media that you want to hear more of what we love and what we recommend you watch, and we'd love to hear what you think of these films. So I'm going to give 3 films that I recommend. Dan's going to give his 3. The topic today, Tom Hardy crime movies, and by God, there's a few of them. I'm going to kick us off with my 3. Here we go. Layer Cake, Bronson, and This Means War.
Wow.
A quick note on each of them. Layer Cake, almost like a screen test for Daniel Craig as Bond.
Yeah.
If you like Daniel Craig, you like Tom Hardy, and if you like the movies of Matthew Vaughn, who was a producer on many of Guy Ritchie's early gangster movies, you're going to have a really fun time here. It's definitely a cult classic gem. Bronson, Nicholas Winding Refn, Tom Hardy, totally unhinged, off the wall. Probably could have been an Oscar-nominated performance the year it came out. Go watch that. This Means War, very much an ill-advised, misguided romantic comedy about 2 spies stalking Reese Witherspoon. Chris Pine and Tom Hardy have better chemistry together. If only it was a romantic comedy about the 2 of them. But it's still worth a watch thanks to the big T man. Dan, what are your 3 recommendations for Tom Hardy crime movies?
At number 1, at the top of the list, is The Drop. Really, really good Boston flick. Guess you could call it a crime sort of movie. I recommend that. Isn't it a Boston or a Brooklyn film starring a whole bunch of British actors? Correct. It's actually really underrated. I feel like not many people have seen it. I'm looking at Letterboxd now with only 38,000 people have said they've watched it. So that needs to go up because this is a real underrated sleeper, I think. And IMDb, Letterboxd has it 3.4. I'd probably have it a little bit higher than that. So look, I really enjoyed Tom in that. Number 2, I'd have Bronson as well.
Wow, okay.
I think that's a great film. I'd have that as well. I agree with you, Jackson. At 3, I'm going to say Venom, a real crime movie, a crime in how bad it is. So I really recommend you take a look at Venom as the number 3 for crime. That's right, isn't it?
Tom Hardy crime films.
I mean, look, I'll go different for 3. I'll go Lock. It's I watched it a number of years ago, but it's literally just a one-shotter. It reminds me of Buried, where he's just in the car the whole time, like Ryan Reynolds is in the coffin in Buried. He's just in the car the whole time, and somehow you're engaged throughout the whole thing. I don't know how they do it, but
it's not the T-man. That's how they do it, mate.
It's not really a crime, I guess, but it's look, I recommend it. So they're my 3 from our man Tom.
Let us know your thoughts on each of our recommendations.
Beautiful. Well, what a whopper of an episode. Tom Hardy is he going to enjoy listening back to this one?
He might. Don't know about Josh Trank, though.
Yeah. Oh, look. I think it's been a lot of fun. Now, Jackson, what have we got next week? This is the one I'm really excited for. Talk me through who's the main lead in our next episode.
Next week, we've got a 2019 film that first premiered on HBO, covering some controversies and criminal schemes with the education system there over in the US. It features Ray Romano, who's taking yet another dramatic role. He's having a bit of a career renaissance, of all people,
The
Ray
comeback.
Romano. And I've done enough beating around the bush. It's Hugh Jackman. It's Bad Education.
Hey, there he is, the big man Hugh. Will he put on the performance of a lifetime? We will find out in the next exciting episode of Dragon Ball Z.
All the way watch this podcast.
All the way watch this podcast. So we got Bad Education next week. It's going to be a blast. Thank you for all tuning in. And guys, make sure you watch Bad Education so you can listen along with us next week and we can all have our reviews and thoughts. But guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for joining us again on the We Watch This podcast. Jackson, where can they find us?
Dan, our amazing listeners can reach out to us at We Watch This Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Letterboxd, and even on TikTok. We are We Watch This Movie Podcast. Dan, our listeners can find yourself at Dan Allen Movies on all social media, and they can find me at Marshall on Film, followed by an underscore on all social media as well. We'd love to hear any questions and suggestions that you have for us. In a couple episodes' time, we'll be hosting yet another Q&A. It was a lot of fun last time, and we'd love to hear what you want to ask.
Guys, thanks for listening. A 5-star rating as well on Apple would be much appreciated. Guys, it's been a pleasure. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening.